So over to you, Tim.
Hello everybody, yes, I'm Tim Walker. I'm a research fellow on Smartline, on the Smartline project. So Smartline is a research and innovation project looking at how digital technology can help support people live healthier and happier lives. Our main partner is Coastline Housing. They're a non-profit social housing association, and they own and manage around 6,000 homes across Cornwall with over 12,000 customers. So I'm going to be talking about our Sensing the Home project, specifically how we've co-designed a sensor system which enables Coastline and social housing occupants to better manage the home environment. So this project brings together Smartline's research and innovation around the home environment and health, adoption of smart technology and social housing and digital inclusion. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you, cheers. So the context of this project is that we spend 80% of our time indoors, meaning it's a really important environment for health reasons. For example, damp conditions and poor air quality can exacerbate respiratory diseases like asthma, has been discussed in the previous presentation. So, however, detecting and responding to a poor home environment is a challenge. And this is where smart sensors offer an opportunity because they have the capacity to monitor and identify risks in real time and then transform that data into insight for better decision making. Have the next slide, please. So in 2017, we recruited 300 participants to participate in the Smartline project, and participants live in the Camborne Pool, Ilogan, Redruth area of central Cornwall, as you can see on the map. Participants have kindly had sensors installed in their homes and answered numerous survey questions over the following years. Cover the next slide. So from face-to-face surveys we conducted, we know that the majority of our participants are white females. They have an average age of 56. They can face some barriers to digital inclusion. For example, just over 20% of participants did not have an internet connection when we surveyed them originally. And as you know, much of Cornwall has some of the most deprived postcodes in England, and Smartline community reflects this, with 54% living in the 10% most deprived postcodes in England. So next slide, please. So participants had sensors installed in their homes, and these take readings every 3 to 30 minutes. In each home, there are measures of air temperature, relative humidity, and air quality. Air quality, for example, is measured by particulate matter, a size of 2.5 micrometers. So PM 2.5 has increased by things like smoking or even just people moving around and churning up dust and stuff out of the carpets. We also have external sensors placed outside the homes, and we have some measures of utilities like electricity. So in all, there are over 500 million data points gathered from the sensor so far, with each home having around 300,000 readings for temperature alone. So lots of data. Have the next slide, please. So, as part of the project, we gave participants a smart tablet on which they could view their own sensor data, along with digital training and an internet connection. The sensor data was presented via an interface or dashboard, which the sensor company kind of provided to us. And the image on that right shows that dashboard, that original dashboard that we got. And this system is really useful for technical users or the project team, which need to see which kind of systems are running smoothly or which ones need attention. But from an occupant's perspective, perhaps it doesn't need to be so technical. It's quite a busy screen, and it contains technical terms that are not always intuitive. For example, PM 2.5, what does it mean? And without any kind of context of what healthy levels are of PM2.5, it's difficult to interpret. So, cover next slide. So, via interviews with participants and analysis of the dashboard, of that original analysis of usage of that original dashboard, we established that there was quite low usage by participants, and participants tend to kind of abandon using the dashboard after about 1 to 4 times. And there was no changes in how participants managed their home environment as a result of using the dashboard, the original dashboard. This was primarily because it was difficult to use, and perhaps it didn't provide useful information of what they could do about it. So similarly, feedback from Coastline, the Housing Association, informed us that the sensor system could be improved in a couple of ways. So this is where we set out co-designing and developing a new system and dashboard, which will be more useful to the customers and Coastline. Have the next slide, please. So this is a diagram of the system we have developed, and there are a number of original and new components of what's been worked on. So as explained, the home environment is monitored with the sensors. This data then travels to a university server where it's processed, and this process increases the speed of how it works on the dashboard, like calculations are done prior to it, humans seeing it again. The data is then accessible to an occupant via an online dashboard that we've designed with them, and the dashboard presents the readings and indicates the risk using a traffic light system, for example, if there's high humidity. And crucially, the dashboard now provides kind of guidance on what people can do to improve the home environment. The data is also accessible to Coastline, who have a slightly different dashboard, which provides a sort of bird's eye view of all the properties, and this enables Coastline to quickly identify any high-risk homes. And the final component, which is probably the most important component, is that there's a support team involved. And this team monitors the dashboard and has the capacity to communicate with occupants and support them to improve their home environment. For example, providing fuel poverty grants if the home is underheated. Have the next slide, please. So how was this system developed, and how have we harnessed the power of community engagement? Well, we employed a living lab method. So this approach to innovation is about focusing on the real life environment of living in a home in Cornwall, which is often damp, and ensuring stakeholder participation throughout and co-design work with the end users. Can I have the next slide? So in practice, this involved conducting co-design workshops with Coastline to agree on project aims and develop logic models for intervention, interviews with occupants to understand acceptability and factors for technology adoption, co-design with workshops with occupants and customers to develop the dashboard functionality, how it looks, how the risks were communicated. Analysis of the dashboard and usage to understand any changes in the home environment as using the dashboard, or interventions from Coastline that have changed the home environment, and interviews with Coastline to identify points of innovation and the system's usefulness. So all in all, this was a very iterative process of exploration, experimentation, and evaluation. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is the participant view of the new dashboard, and as you can see, it's very different from the first. Responding to feedback about ease of use, the sensors are more intuitively color-coded to indicate the risk. Have the next slide. We added a tell me more section, which explains what the risks are in straightforward language. And have the next slide. And an advice and guidance section on what could be done. And cover the next slide. So this is the Coastline view, and you can see it provides an overview of all of the properties, and again, it's color-coded to quickly be able to navigate to ones that were out of ranges which might be deemed unhealthy based on WHO and guidelines. Have the next slide. And again, yeah, just to reiterate the point that it's sortable, so you can put the high-risk homes at the top. So, go the next slide. Right, to illustrate the system, how the system works in practice, I'm going to tell you a quick story about the cat and the latch. So the story begins with Coastline support team spotting a property with high temperature and high humidity. A visit was then arranged with the occupant, and the high humidity had been caused mold and was making the customer's asthma worse. The problem was a lack of ventilation due to broken latches on the windows. And the customer did not want to open the windows without there being the latch on because their cat would escape. So the latch fix was a very easy one, a positive outcome for the customer's health and the building, because buildings are not designed to withstand that amount of humidity. Importantly, the innovation here is that this issue would not have been reported to Coastline otherwise. The customer didn't feel like they wanted to bother Coastline with this issue. So it's a sign of how this innovation is useful. Have the next slide. So based on interviews with the Coastline, then we've identified a number of ways this new system is really useful for them and to support their customers. So it enables them to identify vulnerable customers underheating their home, identify poor living conditions. It's also, they've been able to identify changes in financial circumstances, which might mean they might need other types of social support, leading to their inability to heat their home. Over occupancy or non-occupancy. Really useful for identifying, conducting proactive repairs and protecting the buildings, and crucially, what enables them to do is be proactive in preventing kind of issues in the home becoming complex and difficult, so that they can treat the issue before it becomes a really big issue that's very stressful for both the occupant and the housing team who are trying to improve what's going on. So next slide. Have the next slide. I'm sure there's I think it's a delay there. I'll wait. No worries, Martine. I can carry on talking if it's not possible.
Sorry, Tim.
That's okay.
The slides, yeah, we're having some gremlins. Sorry, it seems to the next slide's gone, which was your. Hang on, I'll just see if I can.
I can carry on talking.
Yeah. Hang on, just let me see if I can screen share, and then. Yeah, you carry on talking, because I think the next one was yeah, just the harnessing the power of community engagement, wasn't it, with the image that you had previously? Yeah,
that was it. Yeah. So what have we learned about the process and importance of community engagement? Firstly, it takes time to develop relationships. If research has to be less about kind of extracting data from people and more about exchange, then trust needs to be built. In the case of Smartline, we were lucky to be up and running before COVID happened. So we had lots and lots of face-to-face relationships with customers and community events where this was a real foregrounded the ability to have like really good conversations with them and get them involved in research. In this talk, I've mainly highlighted the kind of practical benefits of the co-design approach, but we've also found some social benefits about participants being involved in the research events and contributing to innovation. And what we found was, interestingly, that there was quite an altruistic motive for engaging in the research and giving the participants their census data, as they saw the project as a way to contribute to improving the design and management of their social housing community. Final slide. So if it will flick. No worries, if not, I'll just carry on talking. So there are a number of wider conclusions we can draw from this project. Firstly, the co-design methods are useful for developing usable and useful innovations by less focusing on the kind of technical possibilities and more on user need. Secondly, the sensor systems are useful for identifying risk, but we need to be matched with human capacity for intervention and social support. And thirdly, housing associations are really very uniquely placed as these sort of intermediaries which have the potential to improve health and well-being at scale. That's it. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Tim. Sorry about that, but I'm just looking in the chat. Hang on, I'll just get rid of that. And we've got any questions? So we've got Emily says something else that needs to get out everywhere so we can all learn and adapt our homes and workplace better. How do you identify changes in financial circumstances through the measuring with smart devices in the home?
It was the underheating of the home, which like a lower temperature, which in itself is not a change in financial circumstances, but it's an indicator that something had changed in the normal pattern of that home's like environment. And when and these sensors just enable kind of a trigger response by the support team, and it turned out that there was a loss of employment within the home, which meant they couldn't afford the heating, so they were able to mitigate that by providing a fuel poverty grant and support in such a way. So it doesn't directly measure any financial changes. It's more of a kind of an indicator of change.
We've also got a question from Sam. He says, a really valuable project. I'm impressed. What was the reason for installing the units above doorways rather than at sitting or standing height? I think that's just the image you used, wasn't it?
Unfortunately, despite a project that's got a lot of put out a lot of sensors, we haven't got that many pictures of sensors in the home. So sorry, that was just a poor picture.
So Sam, they are in a variety of places, and we are actually doing a video, aren't we, which is kind of a walkthrough of someone's home, so you can kind of see where the sensors are located and how they're
in the bedrooms and the living rooms.
Yeah, great, thank you. Yeah, we did a project a few years ago, and we clipped little tiny body-worn sensors onto people, so they followed them around, and then had one that was in a static place in the room as well. So no, I was just interested if there was a reason that I couldn't understand that they were all installed very high. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I can't. Sorry, Tim. Were you going to?
I was just going to say, when the project was conceived, the sensors available were very different for what's available now, and as the project's evolved, the technologies move forward. So it'd be interesting to rerun the project with these new available sensors and what they're able to do.